going to change things around a little bit today. Douglas reached out to me, um, and I appreciate what he does. He works with young people, and he has a passion for what he does. But anyway, he's coaching some young people, and he has actually a game with them. Um, and so I told him I was going to rearrange the schedule, and you guys would be okay with that. And we're going to start out with Douglas going ahead and presenting his do his presentation on the PSEL standard, and then he's going to have to leave us. Hope you win the game, Douglas. Let me know, and then Dr. Bullis is going to join us at some point. So we'll just kind of play around. So Douglas is going to go first, and then if Dr. Bullis has not joined us, we will go ahead and get our second presentation in. That is, Lord knows I'm looking at them.
Mandy.
Yeah, it's me.
Yeah, Amanda. Yeah, Mandy. Okay, Mandy. So you'll go right after him, unless Dr. Bullis joins us, and we'll let him so he can go ahead and sign off after, if he happens to come in. But I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Douglas, and then I'll skip around on the agenda, but we'll accomplish everything. So Douglas, I'm going to turn it over to you at this time.
Okay. All right. So I'm outside of the gym that I'm coaching at, so I don't know if my service is gonna go in and out. I'm in the car, so hopefully all goes well. I'm gonna share my screen. Can everybody see this? We're good. All right. So I had standard 7, professional community for teachers and staff. So this first part is a basic definition, just talking about what the standard is. Effective school leaders create a supportive environment where teachers and staff work together to help every student do well in school and feel good about themselves. So when I first looked at the standard, my first thought was professional community. So we're just talking more about PLCs and collaboration and group work. But as I did a little deeper dive, I came to the realization that the professional community means a lot more than just working together and being with your colleagues. So when I kind of broke it down in a couple different sections about what it measures, so of course there's that collaboration and teamwork part that I talked about initially, professional development, growing the teacher, but then I think the meat and potatoes gets into student academic success, student well-being, school climate and culture, and then there's a portion in there where that talks about leadership practices and how leaders grow their school within the professional community. But I think to me, the biggest part is that student academic success, having a foundation where the school is, or teachers, I should say, teachers and the staff are working together, but they're working together ultimately for that same goal, which is for students to succeed. Bringing a kid in wherever that kid may be, meeting them where they are, and getting them to a higher level as they leave your institution, whether it's elementary, middle, or high. I myself, I work in a high school, so taking those kids wherever they come in at, whether they're on grade level or below grade level or above grade level, our goal as a staff should always be to make them better people, better in academics, better all around people by the time they leave our high school. So the first thing I did here is, I think I skipped this step, I'm sorry. It's talk about how that professional community or how it looks at Rock Hill High School. I teach in Rock Hill, South Carolina. And currently we are a below average school based on our school report card, just indicating that we got some areas that we need to grow in, especially academically. There's also a culture piece that I'm going to hit that's scoring low. And I have a theory on why it scores low, especially within the community and the parents but we'll get into that as we go along in the presentation. We do have great, I say great PLCs in the school, and I say that kind of lightly. We have them; they meet religiously, but I think, in my opinion, they don't accomplish the goals that we need to accomplish as a school. And again, I'll dive more into that. But we do have those PLC communities that meet every week. Sometimes they meet twice a week. Uh, all our PLCs are scheduled after school, and there's a time on our rotating schedule where they meet during lunch as well. Another big component that we have at Rocky High is, of course, the PBIS, and PBIS is that positive behavior intervention system. And for us, our teachers, they give out Bearcat bucks, and they try to highlight all the good things that the students do throughout the course of a week. And then that following week, those students are rewarded with prizes from our PBIS cart that we try to have out there at lunch. Just a way to get the kids a small thank you. Like, we see what you're doing. We want those behaviors to continue, and we're going to reward you for those. Also, there's rewards at the end of each 9 weeks for students who don't have any referrals or not being discipline problems. And then this year, there was a big push for attendance. And we have a major attendance issue at our school, and some of our makeup seat time requirements changed. Initially, we're allowing kids to make up a ton of hours through seat time. Principal came in this year and he kind of capped it. Once you get more than 10 days, more than 10 absences for a semester class, he was not allowing you to make up that seat time without some extenuating circumstances that had to be documented along the way. So that kind of got kids in a different mode than what they've been in. It was kind of a big stop to a lot of kids because they were used to just, missing 20 days and going to makeup school almost every weekend in order to meet their seat time requirement. So we kind of shifted that PBIS to have that attendance piece and reward those students who were doing what they were supposed to do. I know it sounds kind of crazy because, students should be coming to school anyway, but there was an incentive for the students.
Try.
All right, so here, as we break down those 6 categories that I talked about before, okay? So here's some data, and this is just pulled from the climate survey from that the school gives out. I think it's through Cognia each year. And here you'll see, as we talk about that collaboration and teamwork, we scored pretty high, or the teachers kind of had a high value for that. Mostly agree, right around that, a little above that 90% mark. And again, that's because those meetings do occur every week religiously. People are going to be at their PLCs. And like I said, sometimes it's even more if they have that rotating week at lunch, or if it's a PD session, or teacher work days, where we're getting that time to meet with our PLCs as well. Okay, so that's why that number is real high. But again, there's a little deeper dive that we got to go into looking at that number once we get there. All right. So here are some of our some of the data when it talks about professional development. Professional development for us as a district is a little bit different because we get choice PLCs. Well, I say different, but I don't know what everybody else does. But we get choice PLCs when we meet as a district. You get to pick where you want to go, and they try to pair it up. So if you go somewhere in August, then when that next district PD comes around in October, that you're going to the second part of that professional development. So you get the big piece and not just a little bit of the piece. We kind of try to take the same approach on the school level. So our school level, when we meet on a monthly basis for professional development, and it's usually during our planning periods, we will go choice PDs. Our API gives us 3 different strands that we pick from. Pick those strands, and we kind of go with those for the next three months. to kind of get the whole piece of that professional development. But right now I think there's a weakness in there, as those professional developments aren't necessarily always what we need, as opposed to it just being something that's off. And I think that's where we got to go a little deeper out on the school level, is using the data to dictate what professional development we have. And I'll get into that because I feel like we have a hole just as a school that we kind of need to patch up using that professional development. Okay. So here on this next slide, we're talking about student academic success. Student academic success is probably one of our weakest areas at the school. We're kind of underperforming in comparison to our district and in comparison to the state. Okay, our numbers are low in algebra, English, also in social studies and science as well. So we're not super low, but there's a lot of room for growth, and I think that kind of matches up to what we need to do as far as professional development in our schools. Okay, so here this is just talking about student well-being. Student well-being is a huge component in all of our schools now, as we talk about the mental health of students and just how they are on a day-to-day basis. It's kind of different because it's one of those things now where, as teachers, we have to be cognizant of how that student is coming into our classrooms. Whether they didn't eat breakfast that morning, or problems going on at home, or even something where we may view it as small, where they're having a boyfriend girlfriend problem. It's a big problem to them. Okay, I know with my high school kids, these kids come in high low, and it's not really middle. Okay, they're either really happy or they're really down for whatever reason. And as teachers, we have to be aware of that, and as leaders, we have to be aware of that, and kind of meet the kids where they are, and do our best to make sure they're leaving our space, or leaving that time that we have with them, better than how they came in. So that's the student well-being piece. Climate and culture. Now, our climate and culture numbers, to me, they're very low. And I think a lot of that has to do with, ironically, I think our culture has a lot to do with our football team. Okay, I know we're talking about academics, but for us, if you were to Google right now, football city USA, okay, Rock Hill, South Carolina comes up. That's the first thing. And in our district, our three high schools, Rock Hill High, Northwestern, and South Point, are football, 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 football. Okay. And right now, at this point, Rock Hill High is the lower of those three when it comes to football success. These last 5 to 10 years, we've been pretty low football wise. And I think that has been a direct correlation to our culture at school, where kids don't participate in other things as much because the football team is down. And I know that may sound crazy to some, but when our football team is good, it seems like everything in the school is good, where we're getting participation for not only athletics, but the clubs and the arts and the theater, the music, all those things. Everything kind of livens up when the football team is doing good. So right now we're at a point where our school culture is on a decline. It's not as high as it was, and I don't think as high as it's even going to be this year because of that success of one program, or lack of success, I should say. And then on that, when I broke it down to 6 pieces, that last piece is the leadership practices, and I'll kind of get into my thoughts on this and how I feel like we should move forward at our school. But even here, you can see that there's not. I mean, there's a couple of areas that are high, but there's a lot of areas that are low when it comes to leadership, and what the perception is of what our school administrators are doing. And I think as teachers, we had a big decline this year where we didn't feel like the voice of the teacher was being heard, or I guess the recommendations from what teachers were doing. And I think some of this was a lot of pressure on our principal, with us getting that below average, and we had to have the turnaround plan. And there was a lot of pressure on him to kind of fix things. I think he kind of got into his own little bubble where he had the blinders on, and he was like, well, this is what I got to do, and this is how I got to fix it. I'm just going to kind of go about it my way. And I think that kind of trickled down to the other leaders at the school. And then it kind of had a poor effect on those teachers who didn't feel as valued as we had been in the past, which is why those scores are a little bit lower than what they have been. Okay, so I'll go back to Rock Hill High. Like I said, where I feel like the strength was, our strengths were in that PLC, our monthly professional development. I think that's a strength. Even though it needs to be tweaked, it's still a strength of the school that we have it. Those choices are available, that we get a little bit of options every year, every month. Also, another piece where we talked about teamwork and collaboration, subject area collaboration. So within your, well, outside of that PLC, so you have the PLCs where they may meet all the English 2 teachers, all the English 3 teachers, all the English 4 teachers. But then you have that huge subject area where that whole English group is meeting and collaborating and bouncing ideas off each other, because as a team or as a school, you have to take those kids and you're growing them again, like we said earlier. So you take those kids where they were in English 1, and then you want to get them ready, or you're preparing them for that next level, English 2, English 3, English 4, whatever classes they may take. So that collaboration within the whole subject area is a key component. And I think we do a good job of that at Rock Hill High, focusing on that and communicating with each other almost on a daily basis. For me, it's a little different. I'm in the CTE department, which encompasses a whole bunch of different subjects, but we still make it a point to meet together, so that we're bouncing ideas off each other, and kind of trying to grow. Our goal, not necessarily EOC scores, because we don't have that EOC score at the end, but our component is kind of try to grow our clubs and get our completers. So we're trying to push a lot of kids into our clubs, and we're trying to make sure their alignment, or they're in alignment, so that they can be completers when they graduate high school. And that takes a lot of collaboration from us to kind of recognize those students who need to kind of be pushed in one direction or another. And then that PBIS, again, I think is one of our strengths. It's something that we're visible with, posters all over the school. We push it out. We got to get more teachers actively involved and engaged and giving out those Bearcat bucks and making those recognitions. And we like to tell them it doesn't matter how small that recognition is. If you're walking and you see a kid pick up some trash off the floor, and that needs to be recognized, because that may not have been their trash, not something that they had to do, but they took the time to do it. And we want to recognize all those behaviors within our schools. All right, so with that said, there's always opportunities for everybody to improve and grow. I think one of the first things that we need to look at as a school is strengthening our leadership practice. Okay, and with that, I think there needs to be more leadership training. And when I say training, as we talk about our school communities, there's always going to be people in the school communities, and our staffs that want to move to the next level. Okay, so for me, for example, now I'm a teacher in the classroom, but at some point I want to move up to the administration level and be in a position of leadership. And I think as a school, we need to identify those teachers, and train them, and give them more what's the word I want here? More responsibilities. You give them more responsibilities so that you can develop them into leaders, and enhance those skills, whether it's in communication, conflict resolution, strategic planning, all those things that you might not get on a day-to-day basis as a teacher. there's opportunities outside of that. And I think our leadership needs to help grow the teachers in the building, and I refer to it as growing your own, instead of looking outside to see who's the next person or who's in line, grow the ones that are in the building, so that they're able to move on up, whether it's at their school or somewhere else. That other piece is student academic success. I think we have to do a better job when you talk about the PLCs, is letting that data drive everything that you do. Okay, taking that data and saying, hey, we're low in this area, we're low in Algebra 1 scores, and this is how we need to target it. Right now, we have a RTI piece on our campus, and our RTI piece is Tuesday through Friday. Students have a 30-minute time where they're supposed to go get remediation. They're supposed to go get some kind of extra work, whether it's because they're behind, even if they're on level, or even if they're just trying to move ahead. And right now, the way we structure it is there's a lot of freedom for those students. And those students get to pick where they want to go on a daily basis. And a lot of times those students don't go where they need to go. They go where their friends are going, okay, or they get missing altogether. We have a problem where students skip, they try to hide out in the bathrooms or whatever it is to avoid going. And I think the data is telling us that we don't need to allow that freedom. Even on the high school level where you talk about more responsibilities for a student, we need to take that responsibility away from the students. And I think the data says, hey, here's where we're weak. We're not getting the participation that we need during RTI. So let's fix it. Let's take it away. Let's tell little Johnny, hey, this is your schedule for the week. This is where you're going to be, or there's going to be consequences from that. And I think that's a conversation that needs to be had within our PLCs and in our collaboration, and then leadership. Ultimately, our leadership has to make that decision to kind of change the way we do our flex scheduling, and not give that freedom to those students. And then the third opportunity for improvement is engaging families and communities. And this goes back to Football City USA, because when the football team is good, you see all kind of parents, everybody's talking, the community is vibing and all that good stuff. Okay. But when the school report card comes out and it's below average, there's no talk going on about it. Nobody in the community is saying, oh, well, why is Rock Hill High low? Or what is Rock Hill High doing wrong? Okay. And I think that's where, as a school, we have to get parents involved so that they care about the academic piece and not just the athletic piece. So we have to actively get parents involved and get into the community more as well. Right now, most of our community interactions happens through athletics or through the school district. Okay, so there's not a whole lot of just going into the community for the theaters or going to the community for the arts or getting the community to come in and talk to our students. And I think that's the piece where we need to bring it all together and get our community more invested outside of athletics, so that we can kind of grow that community piece and get people more engaged with our school. So I kind of broke that down even further because I said that. Now what does that look like? Again, for the leadership opportunities, you think more mentorship, and that could be teacher to teacher, teacher to student, or student to student. So when I say that, having teachers involved with each other. Right now, you kind of get a mentor when you first come in. New teachers get mentors, and I think after the second year, it's kind of, hey, you're on your own now. And I think just bringing it all together to help people grow even more is having that mentorship throughout your time on campus. I know for me, as somebody that came in through an alternate pathway, there was a lot that I didn't know when I started teaching back in 2013. And it was kind of, hey, go figure it out on your own. And I know for me, having a mentor and being able to see how other teachers teach in their classroom would have been pretty beneficial for me coming in through an alternate pathway. Leadership committees would be great as well. Just like I talked about, those leaders growing your own, having those committees, having a inside school improvement team. Right now, we got a school improvement council that's composed of a couple people in the community, and mainly the administrators. But having that school improvement team that's composed of teachers inside the building, more students inside the building, because those people are the ones that are in touch with the day-to-day operations, and they can kind of help it versus for somebody on the outside looking in and only getting bits and pieces. Yeah. For the student academic success, just like I talked about, the RTI piece needs to be revamped. I also think, it's 2024 that we kind of need to embrace technology and use technology as much as we try to get kids to, not use technology. I think that's one of those battles where we kind of got to embrace, and we just got to kind of use it to our advantage. Right now, technology, whether it's being advertised or not, is kind of tracking your every movement. AI is getting to the point where they know, hey, your routine is you come in at 8:15, you log in and check your email, and then you log onto your learning system and start putting in grades. So at when somebody else comes in, or if you're late one day, or somebody else is logging into your device, that AI can figure out, hey man, this is not your normal routine. Let me send a check to make sure that it's you. I think we kind of need to do those same things with the students, where we're having those adaptive learning technologies that say, hey, little Johnny is coming in, little Johnny is logging on. This is what little Johnny is struggling with. I need to push out a couple of more activities to little Johnny in this particular area. And using those technologies, that AI, to kind of help foster that learning gap with our students when they're not in our classrooms, or making it so that it's more specific to each student. Because I know as teachers, we got these great lesson plans, but it's hard to have an individualized lesson plan for 30 students or 90 students, however many that you teach. But if we're using this AI to kind of help monitor it and kind of give students different assignments and different levels to kind of meet them where they are, then I think that can help us close that gap a lot sooner. And then that last piece that we talked about was engaging the family. I think it needs to be mandatory for parents to have to sign up for the parent portal. I know we have it. I know it's available. The students that you don't have to worry about, those parents are on it. But the students that we worry about, and the students that sometimes can fall behind, those are the parents that are not on that parent portal, and those are the parents that we hear from at the end of the semester that says, "Oh, I didn't know my son or my daughter was doing bad in your class." And I think making that parent portal access mandatory, like you have to sign up for it, just like we do in athletics. So athletics, they have to have what we call the Planet HS account or Big Teams account, and they have to input so much information into there in order to even play. And all those parents get that information in. They get it in by a certain time because they want their son and daughter to be able to participate in athletics. Well, when you put it back on them, they have to be able to do that same thing academically. So that way, everybody's on the same page as you matriculate through the semester, and not just worrying about what happens at the end. Okay. And other pieces, family workshops educate parents on resources and keep them updated with the curriculum. A lot of times, what I'm finding out at my school is if a student is in a particular class, the parent has no idea what goes on in that class or what they're supposed to be learning in that class. And I think when you educate the parents and they know that this is what we're working on this week, this is what we're working on the next week, then they're able to hold their students or their kids a little more accountable, and it helps to keep everybody kind of on the same page. Again, so that you're not getting lost and you're not getting those phone calls and emails at the end of the semester when it's almost too late. We got to kind of take back our families, take back the community where we're all engaged and we're all working together so that we can help the student ultimately grow and get that well-being that we're looking for. I think that was it. That was a lot of talking.
Well, I'm going to go ahead because I know, Douglas, you've got to get to your team in just a few minutes. Wow. You hooked me from the very beginning. You're too quiet with groups. You have a lot to offer, and sometimes you stay quiet and you don't put your 2 cents worth in there. Shame on you for not doing that because you know what you're talking about. Highly impressed, Douglas, with your presentation. First of all, you convinced me you know your school and you know your community. That's so important as a leader, to know your school and to know your community. You began, it took me back to our first semester together. You actually hooked me from the because you began with your focus on the students and student achievement. Then you moved into the teachers. It was like the APSO and the APTEL. I could follow you through the course, through the evidences that you've worked on, through this program. You focused on student success, and I agree with you. You have to take them where they are. That goes back to what Dr. Lamb's presentation and Dr. Hamilton and others, when we spend a lot of time dealing with EVOS. EVOS is, we take them where they are, and we're responsible for providing a year's worth of growth in a year's time. So you fully understand that, and you emphasize that. You talked about the total child, the whole child, their well-being, their mental health, all of this. And I could go on and on, but I want to give others before you have to leave a chance to say something to you. I was a high school principal for 6 years, and you hit the nail on the head. My football season determined what my year was going to look like. And so if you're a high school principal or you're in leadership, at a high school level, that is so important that you put the right people into those positions that's going to help get your year off to. It does. Your student success improves. Parent involvement, community involvement is much higher. How you start your year with that football team is going to pretty much dictate what the rest of the year is going to look like. So you hit the nail on the head with that, Doug. And I learned a lot as a high school principal, making sure that I had the right people in the right place, helping me, get my year started right. So I learned the hard way because I didn't do the right things to start with, but I was able to figure out. I had to fire some people. I just said, you're not going to do this anymore. And, but I found the right people, and we turned it around, and we made it happen. Any comments to Douglas from others before he has to sign off? Okay, Mandy?
We don't really use PBIS at my school. Like we really we don't. And I want to know, like, for high school kids, what is on the PBIS cart? Like they're going to get caught doing something good. What's their motivation? I'm just so fascinated by it.
I'll be honest with you, the cart ain't great, but the kids it's usually, most of the time it's snacks. Snacks, and there's school supplies, but you got to be in a certain dietary requirement, so calories and stuff, so you can't give them all the great stuff.
I mean, I don't know, throw me some Sour Patch Kids. I'm likely to do lots of good things. So
and I will
they
tell
like it.
I will tell you, if you can, and you can get them donated a lot of times when you're doing like your 9 weeks incentive for things. If you can get a $10 McDonald's card, donated, sometimes just even a $5 to help them out with, when they do go to McDonald's. They love McDonald's cards and Walmart cards. They love them. So I keep a lot with my program. I try to keep a lot of them to use as incentives, with at the schools where we have programs. So other comments to Doug before he signs off? Okay. Doug, job well done. I'm very
Dr.
pleased
Sedman,
with
can
you.
you hear me okay?
Go ahead. Yes.
I'm sorry, I couldn't figure out how to raise my hand on the thing that I'm using. I just wanted to say that there were several connections that I made with Doug's his presentation. And one of the things that Mandy shared, and I know that we talked with our school law and our finance about how to provide those incentives, and the inability to link to Booster Club and things like that. But are there financial ways to do that other than in the general budget? Like, are you able to utilize collaboration with Booster Club?
Are you talking to Douglas?
Well, to both of you guys, because I know he's
Well, I can
through
tell
our
you
case
what.
study groups, I know he's really involved.
Right. Well, I can say for me that, in my program, because I am a nonprofit, I raise money through grants and things like that. And schools can write for grants too. You can write for grants specific to programs like PBIS to help with incentives. And there's a lot of programs out there that'll give you $1,000, $2,000, up to $5,000 to help with incentives. And then that's why you have to have strong relationships with your communities. Your communities, churches, different places, they will provide incentives for you a lot of times if you reach out to them. So,
well, and that was one thing that I jotted down that I was going to include in my feedback to Doug, was just his knowledge of the need to connect to the community outside of football, which I thought was great.
right. But there's a lot of, always look for those small grants, because that's an easy way to get incentives for your school and the things that you're doing. So look for those. Okay. Douglas, good job. Go win that game. Okay. Let's go ahead and move on. Mandy, gonna turn it over to you.
Hey, everybody. Hope you're doing great tonight. I'm gonna, okay. Let me find out where this is. All right, so I'm gonna share my screen with you. And hopefully you can all see this, yes? Okay. So I've got PSEL number 6, and that is the professional capacity of school personnel, and it's really all encompassing. This is a really, this is a very large standard to kind of unpack. I want to preface this by saying that I like the school where I am, but coming from, this is my 3rd year there, and coming from a really high performing school in all aspects, like it was the model of all of the best practices that we've researched, there's been a lot that's been uncovered. So I try to frame a lot of the positive first, and then tell you kind of the nitty gritty of how it really is for the needs improvement. So tonight, I'm going to give you an overview of PSEL 6, the definition and what the leadership responsibilities are. We're going to talk about the competencies and standards embedded in it in detail. I'm going to tell you a little bit about Weddington High School and what PSEL 6 looks like at Weddington, and then the strengths and improvements and kind of my overall rating and thoughts about it. First, we're going to do our little overview of it. And what exactly is PSEL number 6, the professional capacity of school personnel? What it tells you is that effective educational leaders develop the professional capacity and practice of school personnel to promote each student's academic success and well-being. And I think that that is always, while students are not the main focus of this standard, they really and truly are, because ultimately when everything works together, students are going to be successful. Okay, so we're going to go through the competency standards. There are several of them, and each one is what we have is what is effective, but then I'm also going to go in and tell you what is exceptional. So effective leaders do this, and here's how it would change for an exceptional leader. So effective leaders recruit, hire, support, develop, and retain effective and caring teachers and staff, and they form them into an educationally effective faculty. So to be exemplary, effective leaders will build the stakeholder capacity and commitment, and they're going to utilize intentional strategies to do all of the things in red right there. And they're going to actually cultivate a staff that assumes collective responsibility for the growth and development of the whole staff, which I really like, because it's not just the principal, it's everyone's responsibility. Effective leaders plan for and manage staff turnover and succession, providing opportunities for effective induction and mentoring of new personnel. So to be exceptional, this is, of course, planning for the turnover that you know about, and then having some things in play in case there's turnover you don't know about, which always happens. And this is also, if you're exceptional, you empower your staff to design and facilitate highly effective and innovative systems of support for new personnel. So you don't handle it yourself, you let your teachers and your other faculty members help with that as well. Effective leaders also develop teachers and staff members' professional knowledge, skills, and practice through differentiated opportunities for learning and growth, guided by understanding of professional and adult learning. So just like we do for students, we differentiate that instruction. The professional development that teachers get needs to be based on their individual needs and their growth. To be exceptional, the effective leader is going to build the capacity for the school community to collaboratively and strategically design and develop opportunities for individual staff and for whole staff for deep learning and evidence-based growth that's guided by the application of the learning structures grounded in extensive research for adults. Those effective leaders also are going to foster continuous improvement of individual and collective instructional capacity to achieve outcomes envisioned for each student. So that's taking what you're doing as an individual, making sure you're doing better so that your students can achieve, and the envisioned outcomes in my head is, your goals with your school improvement plan. To be exceptional, you're going to collaborate with the school community and lead the continuous improvement process, resulting in an action plan that promotes personal and group instructional capacity, and it nets really large improvements in student academic achievement and enhancement in their well-being and school effectiveness. So really, PLCs are going to help continue this to foster this improvement, and is going to provide you time to make adjustments if needed, and then also focus on your school improvement plan is going to help with this as well. Effective leaders deliver actionable feedback about instruction and other professional practices through valid research-anchored systems of supervision and evaluation to support the development of teachers and staff members' knowledge, skills, and practice. And we know this can be done through walkthrough observations when you're providing feedback, peer observations with mentors and mentees or department chairs, and also that formal observation process through NESIS. But it always has to contain that timely feedback with suggestions for improvement. To be exceptional at this, leaders will sustain a culture where your stakeholders, your teachers actually independently seek out feedback, where they reflect and utilize actionable feedback on their own from various sources, so they can improve their professional practice. Effective leaders empower and motivate teachers and staff to the highest levels of professional practice and to continuous learning and improvement. So this is all about your empowering and motivating, which comes into play your vision, mission, and then your selected path toward your school improvement goals. It's really up to individual leadership teams how they do this. To motivate teachers, are you going to have a theme? Are you going to have a goal of the day? Are you going to send those daily email reminders? Are there going to be school-wide announcements? But if the leader and the administrative team make a big deal about the importance of your vision and the path there, that's going to motivate the teachers, and they're going to get there as well. To be exceptional as a leader, you have to sustain a culture where your stakeholders empower and motivate other people to the highest level of professional practice, and motivating others turns kind of into the norm for guiding their professional growth. We also, as an effective leader, you're going to develop the capacity, opportunities, and support for teacher leadership and leadership from other members of the school community. So you're going to create those leadership opportunities for your staff, especially collective opportunities. We're talking about school improvement team, MTSS, participating in the PTO, have people be sponsors of things like the class board, graduation committees, and be a part of interviews, things that are a little more visible. A leader that is exceptional sustains these systems and structures that encourage all stakeholders to engage in the leadership opportunities, not just a selected few. Effective leaders also promote the personal and professional health, well-being, and work-life balance of faculty and staff. To me, that means showing your empathy and concern for staff, making them feel supportive, being understanding when situations arise. I've had several awesome leaders who are just like family first, because if something's going on in your family, you're not going to be able to focus and do well here. So family first, take care of what you need to take care of. To be exceptional here, an exceptional leader will champion the systems and structures designed to ease the challenge of achieving work-life balance for faculty and staff. And they're also going to be purposely addressing and assessing the professional health and well-being through, strategic support and expertise for their teachers and staff members. And then finally is tending to your own learning and effectiveness through reflection, study, and improvement while maintaining a healthy work-life balance. And y'all, I don't know a principal that I've not had one that has had healthy work-life balance, to be really quite honest with you. I do have had principals who are awesome at their own reflection, so they may not actually attend professional development other than during the summer, but they do get feedback from their supervisors and for the teacher working condition survey, and they take that really into consideration and reflect to try to make improvements for themselves. So what is this really about? In my own words, it's about the teachers and their empathy and empowerment. Okay, that's enough of that. So a quote that really struck me was Thomas More. I think this kind of really sums up where this is going. As leaders in education, our job is not to control those whom we serve, but to unleash their talent and to utilize, all those talents. So I really think that is a quote that kind of embodies what this PSEL standard is about. We've been through a lot of the same research and writing and training this year. And we know that leaders are charged with positively impacting teacher efficacy, and you have to provide those appropriate support systems and those avenues for that shared learning, because it needs to be collective. And school leaders can help build the collective efficacy among their staff based on the experiences that they provide for them. We can do things like celebrate good teaching. We can demonstrate ourselves high expectations for ethical standards and for moral purpose. So we set those expectations, we live them, we demonstrate them, and we hold our staff accountable to those. We can be just super supportive and encouraging. We can include teachers in the school improvement process and other collaborative decision-making processes. One big thing we can do is protect their time. We can show them gratitude, we can treat them as professionals, and we can make sure that we are using collaborative teams. Also, in this same vein, school leaders can use those best practices, such as giving relevant and specific feedback that's ultimately important for teacher growth. It doesn't have to be huge strategies that school leaders use. It can be small things, such as just a teacher shout out at a staff meeting. It can be a teacher of the month. Let a teacher wear some jeans. They like that. And then one big one that I've noticed at my school is when a teacher's allowed to lead some professional development, that is amazing for the teacher morale, but also for the staff morale, because they really like hearing from their colleagues. And the final thing I just want to give as an overview is very vitally important is creating an honest path for two-way communication, so that you can reaffirm every single person who you serve and really let them know their value and their contribution toward the whole group is appreciated. So with all that, I would like to thank Whitaker, Bandura, and Donahue, because without them, we would not have all of this research about best practices. Now I'm going to give you a little bit about Weddington High School so that you understand some of the numbers that are coming up a little later. So Weddington High School was established in the year 2000. Its first year was 2020-2021. That was the inaugural year of the school. It is the home of the Warriors, so we're the Weddington Warriors. You will hear people all over saying, "Go Big Dub," and our student cheering section is called the Green Machine, and that is a huge thing at our school. Lots of school pride. Overarchingly, parents and students say that Weddington is a great place to learn. Some things that make Weddington very unique is that it's a cluster school. We're on one huge parcel of land. There's the elementary, the middle school, and the high school, which are all located together with the football stadium in the center. And so it just really creates this amazing community because the students matriculate up all the way from the elementary to the high school, and we have special experiences for them marking the way all the way up through graduation. It's a really supportive school community for the students and the families, and it also leads to serving our students and our community better because the teachers can communicate with each other across school. So if I have a student who's coming into 9th grade, I'm going to communicate with their 8th grade teacher and find out, okay, I see all the test scores. Talk to me about how you're differentiating instruction and talk to me about how the student responds to these things so that the students get a more cohesive educational experience. Weddington is in a very affluent community. There are many professional athletes that live and move into the district so that their students can attend WHS. We do not have very much diversity in our student population. That is also mimicked in our teaching staff as well. Less than 7% of our student body is considered economically disadvantaged. So we have just below 7% of students that are free and reduced lunch. And because we are located in such an affluent community, we typically have the resources we need to provide for students inside and outside of the classroom. Yeah, we are #1 in the high school for athletics in the state of North Carolina. Weddington has over 550 student athletes in over 26 sports teams, which is about 30% of our student population. In the 22 years since the school is open, it boasts 91 conference championships, 39 regional championships, 24 state runner-up championships, and 34 state championships. And most recently, this past school year, we won the North Carolina State High School Football 4A state championship. So sports is a part of daily life. Morning announcements, afternoon announcements, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. It is our school culture. And so it's really interesting that Doug went today because he's saying football is the culture, sports is our culture. We have found, though, that our student section has been rapidly declining, and we feel like because they're getting desensitized, because it's a constant bombardment of this playoff and that playoff and this and rah, rah, rah all the time. So it takes the specialness out of it. So it's not really a catalyst for everything else in our school at this point. We do have very experienced teachers. We have 87 teachers and 21 support staff. And we have 91% that are veteran teachers, only 2% have provisional license, and 98% are considered effective or highly effective by the state. We have 27 teachers who hold advanced degrees and 8 who are national board certified. Typically, we have a very low turnover rate, but now we're starting to experience larger turnover rates because teachers come to Weddington, they stay there, and they tend to retire together in droves. And so now we're seeing the next several years are going to be larger years for teacher turnover. We've also noticed that teachers that are new to Weddington and new to the profession, they come for a year or 2 years, and then they resign because they're going into a different profession, which I feel like is the state of the world right now. Because of the quality and expertise of our teachers, we have a wide variety of course offerings, standard, honors, advanced placement, and college prep. We have dual enrollment through a local community college. We have virtual courses. We have CTE pathways, and we have tons of elective courses as well. The most interesting part is that we are a pilot school for the UCPS, the Teach UCPS course of studies. So students sign up for this, and they go to classes every semester for all 4 years of high school. And then by their senior year, second semester, they're essentially student teaching a quarter of the time is what it is in our cluster elementary school. Then they get a free ride to Wingate University for all 4 years of their tuition. And then the promise to repay that is to come back and teach in Union County. I believe it's for 4 years to repay. That be beautiful grant, and I would love that if like my son would get something like that. But we also, because we just have a population of students who wants to go and do everything, we have a large offering of before and after school, over 75 active clubs, obviously diverse athletics, various honor societies, and volunteer bodies. And we are currently tied for the highest graduation rate in North Carolina. We are just sitting just above 97%, so we're tied with one other school for that honor. A little bit more in terms of school report card. Our historical performance score history is really consistently, we consistently have A's, and we consistently meet or exceed expectations. Our growth, sorry. But this year we've noticed that in every single subcategory, growth is not where it should be. So we are pretty sure this year that we're not going to exceed growth. We've also noted that for the first time in school history, we had our AIG, our students labeled as AIG, did not meet their expected growth at all, and that would be in their readings. That would be the English 2. So that's something that we're being very strategic about as well and planning for next school year. Our end of test scores at the high school level, this is the main test that count for your school accountability. So for biology, we're well above the county and the state, and we've shown growth every year. English 2, even though we did not meet growth, we're in that category. We are 92% grade level proficient, higher than the county or the state. Math 1 is a large focus for us because we're only 75.4% grade level proficient, which is definitely much higher than the county or the state, but that's still somewhere where we can see that we need a lot of growth. And then our Math 3 performance is stellar. We're at or above 95% grade level proficient. So some more important numbers for Weddington. We serve 1,830 students. Only 7.87% are chronically absent, so absenteeism truly is not a huge problem at Weddington. The 22-23 school year saw only 56 short-term suspensions, less numbers than that in ISS, and no long-term suspensions. And then this year, I tracked the data, and about a month ago, and we were on track to have even less short-term suspensions and less ISS than we did the previous year. WHS students by the numbers, like I said, we do not have a very diverse population. We are 72% white, 11% Asian, 7% Hispanic, and 6% Black. 42% of our students, which equates to 785 students, participate in AP courses. That is one AP course. We have students, most of them, that take multiple 2 and 3 AP courses per semester, and we are on a full semester system. So that's really loading up on the AP courses. They can also take AP courses virtually if they so choose. And like, again, I think it's pretty special that our graduation rate is so high at 97%. So now I want to look at what PSEL 6 actually looks like at Weddington, broken down into those categories that I gave you. So for recruitment, hiring, developing, and retaining your staff, like I said, our turnover is typically pretty low, around 1%. However, this year, because of the influx of retirees coming, we're at a 12%, and that was when I left school a week and a half ago. So I anticipate that's going to be higher than 12%, just because there's always people over the summer who decide to change venues, or they wait until the last minute purposefully. Typically, our hiring is really done in-house. We put the job on Frontline, we put the application process up, but at our school, they really love to give jobs to people who they know or who their best teachers know. So we hire by word of mouth and current employee recommendation. And it really depends deeply on the character of the person. My principal is very big on, he gets a feel for a person, your character, your morals, and he has the final decision. I've actually participated in many interview panels where the majority of the interview panel wanted one person, and he was like, nope, I want this person. So he overrides it because I think he has a good feel for people and who they are. At our school also, we have a really effective induction and mentoring. We have a great beginning teacher program for initially licensed teachers. So that's the first 3 years. Our mentor-mentee program is embedded into that. New hires to Union County go through kind of a 2-day boot camp for UCPS called New to the U, but Weddington does not do anything specifically for teachers new to Weddington High School or coming back to the profession. And I'll give you an example. We had a theater teacher that we hired 2 years ago. He taught for 2 years, like 25 years ago, like back when I was in my undergrad for the very first time. He taught for 2 years English in a classroom, left to get his doctorate in directing, and he's been directing plays professionally, and then he decided he wanted to do woodworking. So he did that, and he coaches swim. Came back to education with no induction at all. So I pretty much did his whole induction. So I think Weddington would really benefit from new to Weddington High School. Here are the expectations. Here's the support system that you need. In looking at the teacher working conditions survey questions that are related, look at that. Like 90% of people that answered the survey said that my school is a good place to work and learn. So they enjoy working at Weddington, hence the people that stay until they retire. There's not many people who get to participate in the selection of teachers, so in the hiring process. My thought is that mainly this would be department chairs and then people who are chosen to be on that selection committee during interviews who are responding here, but majority of teachers don't really get to help with that. So now we're going to talk about the building the professional knowledge and through the differentiated learning opportunities, and this is really about your professional development. Typically, teachers at Weddington do not select their own PE, and they don't really give that much feedback. This year was the first time they gave feedback, and it was through a Google form. What would you like more professional development in? It's usually whole staff PD led by one administrator. Occasionally, a teacher will be able to participate in getting to introduce some sort of technology program to staff. Like somebody did Class Dojo, how to use it in the high school level. They did Land School, which is how we can supervise students on their Chromebook. Things of that nature is what typically teachers will be allowed to present to staff. And PDs are usually test training, NESIS training. So it's not individualized, it's things we have to do anyway. And Weddington just counts it as professional development. We did do a little PLC professional development at the very beginning of the school year, and I'll get to that in just a few minutes. So teacher working conditions surveys. Yeah, a lot of people, they don't really get to determine the content of our in-house professional development programs, which that's obvious. They're related in our staff meetings, and it's just a short, little 10-minute blip during staff meetings. Professional learning opportunities are aligned with the school's improvement plan. I mean, people believe that it is, but they don't really know. 23.64% don't know. Why don't they know? It's because our school improvement plan isn't published and it's not available for staff, and it's never talked about. So staff don't even know what the goals of this school improvement plan are. They do believe that an appropriate amount of time is provided for professional development between what we have at school and our early release days, and then the PD days that are mandated by the system at the beginning and middle of the year on teacher work days. And most people believe that our PD offerings are data driven. They don't know that for sure, but I sure think they do that because they hope. 25% do not agree, and then 14% just don't know. So that's, again, I think where we need to take our school improvement plan, connect the data. Here's what we need to improve on. Here's the why. And then here's why we're doing this professional development and how it is actually going to help us. Professional development doesn't really deepen a teacher's content knowledge at our school. However, it does enhance teacher abilities to improve student learning. So I really think that when they learn a new system, they learn that technology, they take it to heart and they really try to use it, and they do use it to benefit their students. And this one is really interesting. Professional development is evaluated and results are communicated to teachers. It's not. I mean, I think they look at it and say, okay, great, we did our professional development. That's good. And so said they wanted it, and we did it, but it's never brought back up after the fact. We never go back and revisit it. We never talk about progress through what we learned and how we've implemented it in our own classrooms. Okay, so professional learning communities, a couple of quotes that I really found to be impactful. Collaboration allows teachers to capture each other's fund of collective intelligence, because we really are leaning toward that collective efficacy factor. And the most valuable resource that all teachers have is each other. Without collaboration, our growth is limited to our own perspective. So I really do feel like it is super, super important. We want to foster continuous improvement individually and collectively to help achieve envisioned student outcomes. So we can do that through PLCs, we can do that through faculty meetings, we can do that through every day, because we all have to have that end vision and goal in mind, and we all need to know what we're working toward in the school improvement plan. PLCs are a big part of this, I think, and Weddington is pretty late to the PLC game. This school year was actually the first school year that PLC work happened since my principal arrived at Weddington 4 years ago. He doesn't believe in PLC work. He has openly told us that. So there were no fidelity checks actually regarding if the PLCs were meeting as they were supposed to, or if the meetings were actually productive, what was going on during the meetings. There's no time built into the school day for real PLC work. Teachers are just expected to meet, once a week during their 25-minute lunches with their PLC, which is not enough time to actively get into that work and make any growth happen. The teacher working conditions survey show us that at Weddington, they do use PLCs to align and develop their instructional practices, which is good. I'm certain that they're using, common assessments, and they're trying to align, what they're doing, which is excellent. So next we move to actionable feedback, which is super important for teacher efficacy. We want teachers to be effective. We want them to grow in their craft, and we want them to help students grow through becoming better at their craft. So actionable feedback can happen in so many ways. It can happen in walkthroughs, peer observations, mentor observations, of course in the formal observations, but it can even happen during PLC meetings or just observing teachers in meetings and in the hallway. I will say that in my 3 years at Weddington, I just finished my 3rd year there, I've yet to receive any actionable feedback to help improve my craft. And I came from a place that every time someone came in, I got some feedback and some suggestions. So I feel like due to the nature of the work that we done for graduate school this year, I came to realize through a lot of my meetings with teachers that all teachers are really experiencing just the same. I thought for a while it's because I'm an elected teacher, I'm, a fine arts teacher, they don't really understand the nature of the beast, but it's not. It's really all teachers. My principal does not believe in walkthroughs. They do not attend, administrative team does not attend PLC meetings. And they only receive their formal observations. Beginning teachers do have mentor teachers that can come in, but it's only by request of the beginning teacher to have your mentor come in and observe you and give you feedback. mean, I don't know, the person who's responsible for my observations, he would write a formal observation of me and say, hey, I completed your observation, go sign it. So there was no pre-conference, there was no post-conference. The man never actually stepped into my classroom. So what he did was he saw me working collaboratively with students, with parents, with community members. He saw our school musical. He saw my concerts I put on. He saw me, you know, being on the school improvement team, and he used that to write my observations. So while that, of course, is a part of it, it's not actually my teaching and what I'm doing in the classroom. So because I was pushing, you know, niece's stuff this year with him, I actually scheduled my own formal observation this spring. He canceled twice. Finally, he came. He tried to only stay for 10 minutes. And I said, no, I was like, please, I was like, stay for longer. So please stay. So then I started incorporating him into class to help him stay longer. Essentially, if nobody complains about the teacher, administrators only come in to do your formal observation. So, you know, pretty much people think that teacher performance is assessed objectively. I know for a fact it's not, but I would hope that our administrative team could come into some sort of alignment and really let these numbers grow so that everybody feels like we're obsessed objectively by those standards in NESIS. Teacher evaluation are consistent for the most part, but that should be really 100% across the board. That just means there needs to be some realignment in that administrative team. I love that teachers are encouraged to try new things and improve their instruction. The fact that they're given the freedom to, and they are empowered to, in their classrooms, be creative and do things that they really feel like are going to differentiate instruction for students and help them learn the best. I love that. But a lot of teachers feel like they don't really receive feedback that can help them improve their teaching. So teachers are, however, encouraged to observe other teachers in the school and in the school district. He's just like, if you ever want to go observe somebody, let me know. We will find coverage for you. Next, we're going to move into the empowerment and motivation of teachers. You know, climate and culture is where the vision and mission come into play. And it's very important to have a unified vision and goals for the entire school, which is going to help with school climate and culture. And it also helps for the administrative team to set an example of what they want for their staff. Currently, Weddington does not have a vision or mission. Last school year, the principal pushed what was coined the Weddington Way, which nobody is actually certain what it is or what it encompasses, you know, what traits it encompasses. He pushed it for a while, but he didn't live it himself and he didn't continue to make it important. And so it kind of faded away. The mantra of the school is student-centered, future-focused. Both that and the Weddington Way came from the previous principal. So in the 4 years that my principal has been there, he's never actually tried to communicate his vision for the school or incorporate others and collaborate with them to create a collective vision and mission for the school where it is now. As far as empowerment, certain teachers are very empowered at the school. There's department chairs, highly empowered. But also the people who are super negative and who don't mind speaking up and essentially just griping and complaining, they're also very empowered too, because my principal has an open door policy. He's very empathetic, he's very caring, and he listens. Now, that creates a situation where the majority of people who are not negative Nancy's are left out of the process. And so they kind of float along status quo. They never actually really attempt to do anything more than just come to work and then leave. I will say it was difficult breaking into leadership roles in my clinical internship. I really had to earn my principal's trust and prove to them, the whole team, that I could handle it. And then as they were like, okay, she's got this, then they piled it on more than I could handle, which is really good. I learned a whole lot. The faculty and staff, they don't really, I mean, really this should be much higher. They say that 70% have a school mission and vision, a shared vision. And I feel like that's because most of them have been there for many years. So they've known 2 and 3 prior principals to my current principal. So I think they're still kind of holding on to those glory days. But really, we need a place where everyone is very strongly having a shared vision. They do believe that teachers who are leaders are effective leaders in the school. And I really love that. They want to see their colleagues leading, and they want to lead more. And they also are very happy that admin does a good job at recognizing the faculty for their accomplishments. Typically that's done during staff meetings. They do actually say, like almost 60% say teachers have an appropriate level of influence on decision making, but then it kind of juxtaposes because 60% say that you really don't have a role in establishing discipline procedures, which is really a main issue at our school because, you know, nobody holds people accountable with fidelity, and they don't have input on how the school budget is spent. And I really think that's because if they ask for something, they get it. If it's a need, if it's a classroom need, if it's an instructional need, they get it. And then finally, we're going to talk about your leadership opportunities. That's your collaborative leadership, the school improvement team, MTSS, PTO, booster clubs, anything you can think of. We do have very strong leadership in our department chairs. We only have 3 committees at our school right now. Everything else has been disbanded. Currently, we have MTSS, school improvement team, and then the graduation committee. None of them are actually run as indicated by best practices or with fidelity. It's really the same teachers that are on all these committees. I'm on all 3, and yes, you really the same people. So the majority of staff are really far removed, and they don't really attempt to get involved in the important decision-making processes of the school. So the leadership capacity is not really being built, and the community members aren't seeing teachers as leaders either. Teacher working conditions survey, 30% say they don't have a say in school improvement planning, which is why, hey, most of them don't realize what's in our school improvement plan and what our goals are. And only about 60% of teachers think the school improvement team provides effective leadership at the school. And I'm here to tell you that what our school improvement team does is not leadership at all. We sit in those meetings, and really it's like sitting in a staff meeting all over again. We hear the same things. They ask opinions, but there's really not anything about major decisions for the school or community that we talk about in there. Usually it's, you know, what are your thoughts about parking? What are your thoughts about this? What are your thoughts about this? What days should we suggest to the school system for teacher work days? Things like that. And then finally, we're gonna talk about the self-care of ourselves and of our staff. And I'll say that my principal's awesome because he kind of knows. He's got great intuition and great empathy, and he's care and concern for his employees. If you have the days, he does not care if you take off. He has never said a word about absences. I tell the truth about where I'm going. Every single one of these pictures was taken on a trip away from school, not in the last 3 years, but I'm just saying when you need it, and you know you need it, and I miss school time for it. Like it might have been, you know, the 2 days before we got for Thanksgiving break, things like that. But he's very, very supportive. He's also extremely supportive in, you know, family first. You take care of yourself, you take care of your family. I know this firsthand because 2.5 years ago, I got really sick. Thank you to my appendix. And I was going septic, and I actually almost died. I was in the hospital for 2 weeks, and I was out of work for over a month. And he made it a point to call or text my husband when I was not well enough, contact him every day to check on me, and then contact me every day once I was able to communicate. And then once I came back to school, he would only let me come for half days the first 2 weeks I was back, and came in every single day to check on me at least twice a day, and then several times a day once I was fully back to make sure I was okay. And never asked, I mean, because I had the days, never asked for any paperwork in the hospitals, none of that. He never makes you feel guilty for doing what you have to do for yourself, for a family member, or like as a parent, which I really, really appreciate. So people can be really honest with him about where they're going and what they're doing. He not so much. He is terrible at caring for himself, because that is what part of this, the I is caring for himself. He's a constant worrier. He internalizes everything, all the bad, and it's really, really negatively affecting his health. He, in year 4, has had very, very severe heart problems, and he was forced to slow down this year. So his stress impacted his physical health. And so he did have to miss some school this year and have some procedures done. He also is a very good reflector. So while he doesn't develop himself professionally a lot, he does listen to feedback, and he really has some great inflection points for his professional growth and reflection. I've seen a lot of professional growth from him this school year, because based on feedback from his direct supervisor and the teacher working conditions survey, I can see it in him every single day. So I really enjoy that I have a person who is leading that can do that. Overarchingly, teachers do feel comfortable raising issues and concerns that are important to them, because he is a listening ear. He is empathetic. He will hear you. He might not give you an answer that you like, but he is going to hear your concerns. And, pretty much they say school leadership consistently supports teachers. I wish this is a little higher. I wish there wasn't this group who said, oh, no, they don't support us, where they may not support everything you do or say, but overall, I do believe that they do. So I will say that our areas of strength, after all this, right? After all this, let me say this first, that we know, to kind of culminate this whole thing, is that empowered teachers are committed to excellence. They're focused problem solvers, resilient among setbacks, and they encourage positive, supportive, and collaborative school environment. And when all teachers commit to these ideals, the school vision comes to life, and it turns into this thriving learning community. So it's up to school leadership to create access to all of that and a path for teacher empowerment and teacher efficacy. So my areas of strength for Weddington High School, I really do believe that empathy and care is amazing, what the administrative team has for the teachers and for the students, and also how they celebrate teacher successes. It's really, and student successes as well. They do it across the board. It's wonderful. I do believe that they're selective with teacher leadership, but I do believe that it's in a good way. And I also believe that it's very effective in the way they put teacher leadership out there, because it does increase morale for our entire staff. I also think that they do provide viable PD for student success. So while we are not doing professional development in a traditional sense, what they do present to us is usable, it's relatable, and we can go put it in action right then. Our areas of improvement, really that collective efficacy position. I do feel like we need some actionable feedback, and I also do feel like teachers need to be more actively involved in some of the decision-making processes. So to go into those action items for growth, I really believe that the entire faculty and staff and community needs to collaborate on an updated vision and mission. We could do that in August, and then we can start the year off with a bang, so that we can hit it every single day, connect our school improvement plan to it, and manage those goals every single day, day in and day out, and support each other. I also really think that we need to start utilizing more committees and the school improvement team to the fullest capacity. Have every teacher participate on some sort of committee. And yes, I know that means more committees, but if they're meeting once a month, I feel like that's okay, because then those committees can report to the school improvement team, and then the school improvement team can be utilized truly in the way that it's meant to be. And then we need to start the feedback piece in such a desperate way. Classroom walkthroughs, attendance of PLC meetings. I've actually suggested a Google form for classroom walkthroughs, and then you can put feedback in at the bottom, and it populates for you into a spreadsheet, but also is sent to the teacher at the same time, so they really get what you see and then actionable feedback. And there's a place where they can request to meet and talk to you about it if they want to. So I'm hopeful that next year they're going to implement that. And I also believe that leaders need to start attending PLC meetings first, just to go to those core content PLC meetings and the places that are struggling the most. And with doing that, you're going to see what the PLC meetings are like. You're going to be able to kind of guide what's going on in there and making sure that are doing all the things they need to be doing for student growth. It's also going to have teachers feel more supported because you are going to be there. You're going to be able to answer questions, and you're just going to be in the room supporting them physically as well. So really, don't forget, PSEL 6 is all about the teachers. And I want to say thanks for listening because it felt very long. I appreciate you very much.
Thank you so much. You know,
I'm gonna turn this off. Hold on.
okay.
Okay, now it's off. Sorry.
As I was listening to things, first of all, it's obvious that, you know, this program has allowed you to grow in a lot of ways. I mean, tremendously. It was obvious in your presentation. And I think all of you recognized again the APTEL. I mean, she has unpacked that APTEL. There's nothing else to unpack. I mean, you did a great job with that. I really like the way that you tied in throughout the teacher working condition survey and the school improvement plan, and you tied all of that in consistently with the standard and what the standard was all about. You did an excellent job with that. I went back to your Thomas Mann quote, and you know, it ended by say unleashing the talents in the teachers. Remember the first semester. Remember, I told you, I said, take off your teacher hat and put on your principal hat, your administrative hat. And remember, I told you, I said, no longer, I said, your role now, you don't forget the role of a teacher, but a teacher, their responsibility, a teacher's role is to do what? What did I tell you? To teach what? Students.
Students.
But I said, your role as an administrator is to teach who?
The teachers.
Teachers. So, you know, let teachers do what they're supposed to do, and you do your job, making sure that you are equipping, preparing, you know, providing all the support you can to the teachers, you know, that's been given to you. However, I can't help but to say this, and you know, we could go on and on and on about a lot of things, but even though your school is a state-of-the-art school, it has all of this, there's a lot of challenges there. A lot of challenges come with that kind of school. And you've unpacked that. You've been very transparent, you know, about those challenges.
It's also really, it's very easy for teachers to get complacent too, because the students are high achievers. And if a teacher is not teaching well and the students are not growing and learning, those parents are going to hire tutors, and they're going to make sure that their kids learn and do it. So I think there's a fine line there. You have to make sure that your teachers are actually contributing to the students' growth.
Well, that was my next statement, and I'll conclude with this. Because of the community you serve, because of the dynamics of the students that attend the school, most of them are going to do well with or without a good teacher. They're going to do well anyway. So the challenge is with the things, although you've got some good administration in a lot of ways, I see a lot of areas where there's complacency there. And if they did everything that we've unpacked throughout the 6 evidences that you've had in this, if they did all of that, my God, what would the school look like? So
in my head, I feel like they focus on they can't focus on the forest for the trees. So they focus on all the tiny little minutia, and right. They are very reactive instead of focusing on the big picture and and strategic planning. So
you did a great job saying all of that, Mandy. Thank you for a job well done. In closing, is there anybody that would like to say anything from those to Mandy? Anything at all? Okay. Well, before I turn it over to Dr. Bullis, just a reminder for for Mandy's standard, Julie and Caitlin will be providing the peer reviews, and for Doug's standard, Elizabeth and Daryl will be providing the peer reviews. And we only have one standard next week. Dina's on vacation this week. Dina will be presenting standard 8, and then Paulette and Mayra will be doing the peer reviews for her. But again, great jobs with both you and Doug. Welcome, Dr. Bullis. Thank you for joining us. I'm going to let me say one thing. I know there have been some challenges this week with some of you with scores. We're not going to talk about that, but just briefly, at this point, it is what it is. You're okay. I'm just going to be transparent with you, and I don't agree with the majority of the concerns that you had. They're my concerns as well. I have looped Dr. Bullis into my conversations. I've made it known. I think I handled it as professionally as I could, but I have gone to bat for you. It may not change anything at all, and probably won't, but you're still going to be okay. However, maybe it will make a difference from this point on with what I've done. But I went to bat for you. I will continue to challenge that. It's not my first time having the challenge. This deal. Did all of you get my my announcement yesterday? Did everybody get the announcement? Check your announcements. Julie, check your announcements. There's an announcement in there for the PSYOP. Make sure that you put that disclaimer in there, and then don't just put it there to put it there. You've got to back it up, because in the work that you do in task 1 through 5 anyway, you have got to show proof of that in there. Now, I went back, Dr. Bullis, and I could see clearly, I could see where the leadership was in there. I could see it. They may not have had the term in there, and I'm sure you did too, because we wouldn't have sent it on had we not agreed. I mean, it went through Dr. Bullis's eyes and my eyes. We wouldn't, but we're going to make it so that that is not going to be questionable from this point on. Those of you that submitted, it is what it is. You're okay with me. You're okay with Dr. Bullis. So, move on. Okay. It's not going to affect anything with me. If I had not thought it was good enough, Dr. Bullis, I wouldn't have told you to go ahead and do what I told you to do. So don't qualm over that anymore. But I did ask Dr. Bullis if he would join us, and he may have a comment about something, and then he's going to kind of give you some directions. Since we're in week 6, what's got to be done and accomplished over the next couple of weeks.
Thank you, Dr. Stedman, and let me first say that I agree 100% with everything that Dr. Stedman said. I evidenced his actions in a professional manner to address the situation, and I commend him on that and support him on that. And I'm just going to say this. Dr. Stedman and I have been doing this a long time, and we have reviewed multiple PSYOPs over the years. And I'm just going to be frank and transparent with you. The first time I've encountered this and was very surprised by it. But, just like we always do, I learned a long time, we adapt and overcome, right? So that's what we're going to do. And I believe you're already in the process of doing that. So we're here to support you. If you have any questions in regard to that, you can contact, of course, me or Dr. Stedman, either one. I also put an announcement in my clinical shell similar to what Dr. Stedman did. So hopefully everybody's had a chance to see that. Also, Mandy, I enjoyed your presentation. I'm glad I got to come in and catch part of that. It was very interesting. You did a great job.
Thank you.
You're very welcome, and I enjoyed the conversation and discussion after that. So thanks for letting me be a part of it. So I'm going to share my screen real quick, and we're just going to highlight some things that you probably already know, but I want to be sure that we're in good shape as we're approaching the end of the semester. Things are going to get fast and furious, and just make sure that we kind of all on the same page on some of those very last tasks, no pun intended, with the PSYOP task 1 through 6 or whatever, but some of those tasks that you need to do. Number one, I said this to you, I think at the very beginning, number one priority is finish the CAP and the PSYOP. Number one priority. That's where you need to focus all of your efforts at this time, outside of the assignments that Dr. Stedman has for you in his course shell, because without completing the CAP and the PSYOP and having those completed. Now, if you finish the PSYOP and it's gone through my eyeballs and it's gone through Dr. Stedman's eyeballs, and you've sent it to be evaluated, great. Then you can start working on some of this other stuff. You don't have to wait for that score to begin working on some of the things I'm going to share with you now. But number one priority is submitting that CAP and PSYOP into the DRF, the direct response folio. And we're going to look at that first of all. I'm going to go over two things with you. I'm going to go over the direct response folio and some of the things that's required from you at the very end of the program, at the end of the semester, for you to go ahead and graduate and move on. And also, I'm going to talk to you about the competency folio. First of all,
Bullis,
number one
Dr.
priority.
Bullis,
Yes, sir.
let me say this. Malika, did you get yours submitted? Did you go ahead and submit the CAP?
I did.
Okay,
Yes.
that was the last one, and we're through with the CAP. Okay,
Okay.
Perfect. Great.
gotcha.
Yeah, and I'm going to tell you real quick, you guys have been phenomenal on meeting the deadlines, getting things submitted, moving at a brisk pace. I've had a little bit of challenges with the Blackboard Ultra shell and the discussion, and when people have replied to me, I'm just still learning that new system. So if I've delayed you in any way, I apologize. If there's any question as to if I've seen something in a timely manner and you need some feedback, email me and say, hey, Joe, I put this in there, I hadn't heard from you, just want to be sure that you knew it was there, and just don't want anything like that breakdown in communication to slow you down. But great job on getting all the CAP done. Fantastic. Let's get the PSYOP done. Number one priority. Number two priority, after you complete the PSYOP and get it loaded up for evaluation, is completing the competency folio. We'll go and talk about some of the DRF stuff here later. That's stuff that you can do quickly. You can roll through it at a brisk pace. And one of the requirements of the DRF, you can't complete until you complete the competency folio. So I'm just going to hit folios and web pages at the top banner here, pull up a dummy sample competency folio I have. You've been in this or should have been this for quite some time now. Nothing here should be unfamiliar to you. You know that for each of the 21 competencies, you have to have 3 artifacts. And each competency will give you guidance as to what artifact you need to draw from: communication, the APSL, and the PSYOP. So once again, some things that you've been doing in the PSYOP, you'll be able to pull from here. That's why the PSYOP needs to be completed and the CAP needs to be completed, because you're going to be pulling artifacts out from them to put into your competency folio. So each competency, as you know, is the same. You have a guidance on what evidence you should pull an artifact from, and an open-ended, that's a wild card. You can pick out anything that you've done in your clinical and internship and class for an assignment that represents that particular competency. So you got two artifacts that need to come from your evidences, and one artifact that is a wild card, open-ended, whatever you want it to be, as long as it's relevant. Please make sure that you label the artifacts appropriately. If you pull from the APSL, then when you upload it and you save it with the APSL in the heading, or somehow identify that artifact so the reviewer, and more importantly, the evaluator, does not get confused as to what artifact you mean to represent what evidence. So just be sure they're identified appropriately. A brief description, it is not mandatory, but it always helps. If it is something that, if it's just a picture of you in front of people, then it would be good to put a description about what that picture is showing or what you want the reader to draw from that picture. As a, leading the PLC meeting in my first PLC when I did the app. So something along those lines does not need to be lengthy by any means. It can be a brief description of that artifact, but it is very important that they're labeled so the evaluator and the reviewer can identify what artifact goes with what evidence. And that is all the way through all 21 competencies, all the way down to visionary. If you have a question or you're wondering, and somebody did reach out, might not have been from this cohort, might have been from one of my other cohorts that was struggling with, I think it was organizational ability or maybe it was global perspective. And so I kind of helped them. We had a little brief conversation about, okay, well, tell me some of the things that you've done. Let's pull up your evidence. Let's look through it. And we found it. So if you having a difficult time relating an artifact to a competency and you need some additional support, please reach out to me. We can call, we can Zoom, we can email, whatever we need to do. You know that digital learning competencies, you don't have to do anything in there. That is just there for your information and the information of the evaluator. You are going to satisfy those requirements because just by the fact of going through the evidence and providing and meeting the rubrics, because those digital learning competencies are embedded into the prompts, embedded into the descriptions, embedded into the rubric. So you don't have to do anything to that. Your internship log, you have to complete your internship log as well. You got to get those 80 hours in, and you need to put it up here for review. So I'm kind of like,
it's not 80 hours, Dr. Bullis. They have to do 100 hours.
thank you for that.
That's
Yeah.
okay. Mm-hmm.
I slipped back in time there for a moment. Thank
That's
you,
okay.
Dr. Stedman. Yep. So 100 hours. And please know, I am going to be the last eyeballs that look at this. And so what I'll go through is I'll go through each competency. Even if an artifact has been approved in the past by your clinical coach, I'm going to look at it again. I'm going to make sure that each competence has the 3 artifacts. They are correlate to the evidences recommended, and they're a good representation of that leadership competency. So I'm going to look through them all, whether they've been approved or not, to make sure you're in good shape. And the same thing with the internship logs. I'm going to make sure that you have an internship log up there for each semester. Each one has its signature. You've uploaded the form with the signature. All the activities are relevant and correlate to the requirements of the internship log when I do a final review. So when you can do this either way. You can request comments as you load up different competencies and different artifacts. Mandy, I see your hand. I'll be with you in just a moment. Thank you. You can do that, or you can complete the competency folio and request comments. You can do that as you go through it, or you can do that when you completed everything. So I'm gonna stop for a minute. Mandy, what's your question?
I just had a quick question about the clinical internship logs. I'm finished with all of my hours and they're in there separately. Is there a place where we have to combine them and submit them all as one?
Question. I'm getting there. Great question.
Okay,
Great
great,
question.
thanks.
Yeah, don't let me forget to address that in case I do. All right, so when you are ready for me to take a look, whether it's this, hey Joe, I put some stuff in here. Do you mind looking at 3 or 4 competencies, make sure that I'm in good shape? Are you ready for me to look at everything? You've uploaded all the artifacts, 3 artifacts per competency. Everything's ready to go. Everything's identified. Everything is uploaded. You go over here to request comments. Just like you always do. The only difference is this semester you can do, I usually tell candidates not to do this if it's 601, 2 or 3 or whatever, where it's 601 or 3 or 5 or 601, 2, 3, 4, 5, to request comments in all areas. So I'm just request comments on stuff you got in there. In your case, just request comments in all areas. When you're ready for me to look at everything, just request comments in all areas. If you just want me to look at a few, then just highlight those particular competencies. But once you get to that point, the only difference for you is you should see my name here somewhere. When you request comments, you should see my name. If you don't see my name, please contact me and we'll get that fixed to make sure that I am enrolled into your competency folio. You request comments, I'll review it. Once I review it, like I said, I'm going to go through everything. And what I will do on each competency, if you have everything you need, I will go into each competency and say the requirements for this competency has been met. That means all the requirements of the competency has been met. When I go through all of the competency folio and I look at all of your individual internship logs, up here in the there will be an overall comment section. I will tell you that the requirements the competency folio and internship have been met. You may upload both to the DRF for final evaluation. So you're done. So at that point in time, when we go into the DRF, and Mandy, this is where I'm gonna get into your answering your question. Here we go. I'm gonna pull up a sample DRF. We're just going to look at the 605. So you upload, of course, this is where you upload your evidences. We'll come back to these in a minute. Mandy, here is where you will upload all of your internship log. So if you've done it on paper and it's a PDF, just print it out and scan it as one PDF and upload all of your logs here. This is for evaluation. Does that answer your question?
So it's okay if it's separated into semesters with our supervisor's signature, just make sure it's all one document.
Yes, ma'am, that's correct. It doesn't have, you don't have to go and recreate it and just create one document. You can scan the individual pages into one PDF. Yes. All right, so now once you've done that, we'll come back to this in a minute, but final competency folio, this is where you upload your competency folio for final evaluation. I'm sure Dr. Stedman has a video in his course shell from Dr. Lamb that tells how to do that. I've got a short 2-minute video, the same video in my clinical shell that shows how to do that. Dr. Lamb will take you through taking your competency folio and getting it into the proper format and uploading it here. Any questions on that? Okay. So then I would recommend you worry about these other things. School of Ed disposition, the competency analysis. Once again, that's the same thing it's always been as you started the program. That's just a reflection on how you view yourself as a leader. So there's no grade here. It's just you complete it and do a reflection on how you feel dispositionally to your leadership ability and how you feel in terms of leadership competency. So you just rate yourself on that. Any questions on that? Those shouldn't take long for you to complete it all. You don't have to meet every on these items here. You don't have to say met on every one if you truly feel like you don't. Like I said, that's just a self-assessment. That's more for your benefit than anything else, but you do need to complete them. And then you complete the end of the program completer survey. And this is your opportunity to tell the world how great Dr. Stedman is. All right. That's what we do. That's what we do here. That's what we do. And that's it. That's it as far as wrapping it up in Taskstream. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen and be happy to try to answer any questions that you might have.
Dr. Bullis, also on that end of program completer survey you're going to do, if there's areas that you have had concerns about, also include them. I wouldn't be nitpicky about stuff. It's your survey, but I wouldn't be nitpicky. But if there's something big, now I'm just going to be honest with you. If I was a student, I would put it out there if my score had been marked down because of not having that terminology in there. I would say that.
It's a fair statement. I agree.
I think it's a very fair statement, and I think you can very professionally say that. So, I mean, those are things that you look at. But this is your opportunity. I think you'll have lots of positives to put in there. But if there's areas of concern, the people that are going to be reading that need to look at that as well.
Anything else I can help you guys with? I agree with what Dr. Stedman says 100%, 100%. Anything I can help you with?
Well, Dr. Bullis, they know I have been as hard on them as anybody could have been, having them first semester and this semester too. So, and they know I call it like it is with them, and they know that. So, but they also know that I will go, hopefully they know that I'll go to the end of the world for them too. So.
Absolutely, absolutely. Now, Grandpa used to have a saying. He had a farm, and I spent all my summers hoeing weeds in that dadgum garden. Grandpa had to say it. I always had a saying, we're getting in the short rows. So that means the rows, as they get to the end of the field, they start shrinking. So as we're getting into the short rows, if you need anything, validation, questions answered, extra review, extra feedback, please let us know. We don't want to do anything to slow you down. You want to finish like you started, and that's strong. Stacy, yeah, I see you got your hand up.
Let me use a farm analogy with that too. You got to hoe to the end of the road.
Yeah,
you
true,
can't
very
stop
true.
midway because there's still weeds there. Hoe to the end of the road, finish weeding it. Okay.
I just wanted to clarify. So my Taskstream results from the PSYOP, I posted, I think, on the internships shell, but I don't need to post them in the leadership shell, right? That you guys.
I can see everything.
Okay. Just want to make
I have full access to all of that.
Okay.
Great question.
I look at it every day, 2 or 3 times a day.
Well, did you see that was my I noted on there that my 2 comments both times were that I did not mention the word school improvement plan enough. I'm like, okay, it's fine.
Okay.
Well, that's not going to slow us down and stop us, right? Because you have grown on and prospered beyond that. So great job.
Yeah, I'm not worried. It's okay.
Okay, great. As I said, I'm here for you. Dr. Stebbins here for you, of course. Let us know what you need as we finish out the semester. I'll be looking for your submissions and providing feedback. If I don't, once again, if I don't give you feedback fast enough, there's no harm in looking at my cell number, shooting me a text and saying something and reminding me, or get in contact with me some way. I do not want to do anything to slow you down. All right. Thank you so much for letting me be here.
Thank you, Dr. Bullis. I'm not going to take them any further anyway. I think they've had enough tonight. Unless you've got any questions about any of your other assignments. I think you're okay because we've gone over them several times. Does anybody have any questions about any of the other assignments? A lot of you have finished them all. You're well on your way to finishing the assignments. Any questions? It's been a long night, but we got a lot accomplished tonight. It's been a good night. But anyway, I will see you next week in that's my dog's ways at the door. But anyway, I will see you next week, okay? And our class shouldn't be a long time next week. Okay? Okay, I'll talk to you later.
Bye, thank you.
Bye-bye.